So we're all excited about the metaverse right now. It's this VR dream that we've all been thinking about in sci-fi and movies since like the 60s. We've all been talking about putting this headset on and disappearing into this digital world. But it is by no means settled that we are going to enter into a Ready Player One future starting now. This is something that we've talked about for a long time, but that doesn't mean it's guaranteed to happen. And before we can understand how this thing is going to come about, whether it will be successful or not, we need to look at the biggest barriers that are keeping the metaverse from succeeding today. So that's exactly what we're going into today. We're going to talk about all the big challenges that Web3 and the metaverse are facing before they can take hold of your day-to-day life. My name is Trent Kennelly. I'm a marketing strategist, and on this channel I talk about all the things that you can do to improve your business through marketing, sales, and analytics in the metaverse. So if that sounds good to you and you're excited, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, comment to let me know where you think this metaverse trend is going, if it's going up through the roof, if it's going down and it's going to burn out in 6 months. I would love to know what you think, and let's get started. The first big barrier here is the Metaverse War. So anytime that you're thinking of the metaverse right now, you're almost definitely thinking about one single metaverse. But that really isn't realistic right now. It's not just Zuckerberg's metaverse. There are a lot of different metaverses that are competing for your eyeballs and your money right now. Now, I've equated this in the past to HD DVD versus Blu-ray. So let me just explain that a little bit more so it's a little clearer. So high definition home video through DVDs, which is what both of these offered, HD DVD and Blu-ray, is something that functionally required one of these two products to beat the other, because people who are making a purchase decision are going to decide, do I want a Blu-ray or an HD DVD? Nobody's gonna buy both of them, okay? So these cannot coexist. It's a question of which one of these is more likely to get that market share. The other side of the coin is that manufacturers don't want a double production for DVDs that they're not gonna make as much money on for the losing product, right? And so at the end, we have HD DVD that doesn't have as much market share because people aren't buying it, and it doesn't have enough buy-in from manufacturers because they're not getting the payout that they want by going with HD DVD over Blu-ray, and so ultimately, Blu-ray wins that fight. HD DVD is left for dead. We're gonna see something similar here. Effectively, this comes down to a question of mass adoption or critical mass. So to legitimize a product, you need mass buy-in, right? Especially an online product, the only way that you show that it's worth it is that you have a lot of people coming in and using it, okay? And when you have that, you're gonna get other companies to see the worth, and then they're gonna follow the masses. We're looking at something very similar here versus that HD DVD versus Blu-ray problem. Not many people are gonna spend time across multiple metaverses. You're not gonna have the majority of people going to Decentraland and to Somnium Space and whatever else, or even two of those. You're gonna have people picking one and sticking to that one. And as these metaverses are pulling in more users, they're selling more land, they're providing more products and more services, people are eventually going to feel forced to choose one over the other. But until they do choose, what we're gonna see is a lot of hesitation by some of those big corporations that could truly pump a lot of money and interest into these platforms. Now we're gonna get more into corporate adoption in just a few minutes, but I wanna talk quickly about the essential question here. So Meta, as we know, announced their intention to dive deeper into the metaverse, and anybody who says that that's not the reason that everybody is getting excited about the metaverse and causing this huge shift in people's focus on it, it's just not paying attention, or they're delusional, okay? But still, most of us have a negative, visceral reaction to anything that Meta or Facebook or Zuckerberg touch. We look at this company as uncaring and even malicious about the use of personal data. So the vast majority of people talking about Meta's metaverse right now, they see it as Zuckerberg trying to sit on the throne of Web3 as like the king of the internet. But almost every other metaverse out there, from Decentraland to Zepeto, are using cryptocurrencies and NFTs in an effort to decentralize that power, to take it away from those big corporations like Amazon Web Services or like Facebook or any of those giant corporations that are basically the powerhouse of the internet right now. So whether we're gonna do this consciously or not, we're gonna be picking a winner based on whether we want big bad Meta to be the ruler of our future, or if we want something more decentralized and self-owned, like a Web3 Decentraland or like Somnium Space or something like that. That is the core decision that we're gonna have to make. We're gonna have to figure that out pretty quick. Next is corporate adoption. So I know I just finished telling you that this future comes down to how we react to some big corporations' potentially tyrannical behavior, right? But that doesn't take away from the fact that we need some level of buy-in from business leaders. So let's just go back to that HD DVD versus Blu-ray thing again, okay? And let's just assume in this situation that manufacturers decided that they wanted to produce HD DVDs instead of Blu-rays. They all consciously and collectively made the decision, we're gonna start producing these things. We're gonna start producing everything on HD DVD. We're gonna ignore Blu-ray completely. So now Harry Potter, Star Wars, Marvel, anything that you want to watch is HD on HD DVD and is not on Blu-ray, okay? So what happens to Blu-ray in that case? Nobody's gonna buy Blu-ray because there's nothing for them to offer you. And again, the same is true here because businesses and retailers can bring a lot of clout that they can exercise more fully to a lot more people because they have those entertainment franchises or those exclusive brands or whatever, and those are very popular, right? You can draw a lot of people in by talking about Marvel or by talking about Gucci or whatever. And people love these things, right? And so if people love them and they want them to be in their digital environments as well, they're going to need to follow where the corporation ends up going, okay? So once we have that buy-in from corporations, we're just gonna see a scaling effect and it's gonna go a lot faster from there. Now we're already seeing some companies jump into this space like Samsung with their 837X store event in Decentraland, the Gucci event in Roblox, etc. But there really aren't a lot of permanent installations yet. I mean, the only one that I've seen personally is the Sotheby's installation in Decentraland. They're auctioning NFTs there, so it makes a lot of sense for them. These events are good, but what it shows is that these companies are just dipping their toes in. They're not really making a lot of full commitments yet. And if we want these spaces to truly grow, we need more Sotheby's, we need less Samsung 837X stores that are not fully there and are not fully committed. The next big barrier is accessibility. So the immersiveness that VR offers is part of the real allure of a metaverse. We want to be able to stick that headset on and disappear into a different environment that allows us to do things a little bit different, right? But what that means is that if we want to be able to interact with everybody, do our business through here, etc., we need to have accessibility of this product and of everything involved in it to everybody. But right now, from making purchases inside of the metaverse land, wearables, whatever, to the physical technology itself, everything is kind of crazy right now and needs to settle down a little bit. So let me dig into both sides of that right now, the physical tech and the digital ownership. And let's start first with the physical tech, because when we look at VR tech today, the basic fact is that it is really expensive for the average consumer. I mean, look, it's very well known right now that the Meta Quest 2 is far cheaper than any other headset out there, and that Meta is likely subsidizing the price of the headset itself to the tune of billions of dollars of loss, which, if you've been watching the news lately, you might notice has not really boded well for them, because their stock just took a 27% nosedive due to a reported $10 billion loss last quarter, which is the first loss that they have ever reported. Now, this likely has a lot to do with the iOS 14 issue. You can check out this video for details on iOS 14, but the loss that they're talking about with the headsets doesn't help either. So what does this mean for the Quest 2? If the loss is high enough, it could lead to either increased prices, which is unlikely because that's going to bring a lot of bad press. Nobody likes increased prices, or a higher priced option that is going to cannibalize the Quest 2. So we'll have a Quest 3 that's, $1,000, and then it just makes the Quest 2 go away, something like that. But in either scenario, if they aren't able to get these losses under control, the result is higher cost to consumers and therefore less access to the platform for everyday people. And then when you consider that the prices of NFTs for clothing, land, art, etc. are incredibly high right now, it seems like the dream of Web3 ownership is out of reach for a large swath of people, like most people. That said, this is a market like any other, and the fact that it's still emerging tends to make it more volatile. So there's always a risk, right? There's always a risk that NFTs and the metaverse is a bubble that's gonna burst. I do think it's a bubble. We're gonna see if it's gonna burst, but it could be that the dream of the metaverse goes with it, right? Or not. It could be that we're looking at something similar to the internet boom and bust of the early 2000s that ultimately made Web 1 and 2 more accessible for everyday people. Hard to say right now. That is something that's very up in the air. The next big barrier is the digital physical mix. So right now, most metaverses still feel very pie in the sky. The physical world hasn't translated enough to these digital environments to legitimize mass adoption on any scale. So let's just take one example of physical purchases inside metaverses. Right now, there is no way for the average small business to create a store in a metaverse that sells physical products that will ship to someone's front door without them having to go to some other storefront or have to go somewhere else, okay? There is something called Boson Protocol coming out that's going to provide a method to do physical product purchases in the metaverse, but as far as I can tell, after extensive research on this product, it's still not a perfectly streamlined process. So here's how they say it's gonna work. You go into Decentraland, you buy a physical product. That purchase grants you a thing token that you then use by physically traveling in the real world to a physical location in the real world, showing the cashier a QR code, showing that the purchase happened, and then walking out of the store with the product. So all you have to do is show them the QR code, and then in the background, that thing token registers the purchase. Now look, I know that this is a first iteration. It isn't even out for regular business owners until this summer, but I do have to say that I don't think that this is a very streamlined funnel at all. I haven't seen anything indicating, for instance, that they're even working with shipping or fulfillment centers in any way to make this thing a little bit smoother for people. Not to mention that it is incredibly difficult to understand what they offer and how it works on their website. That's a chip on my shoulder. We're gonna get to that in just a second. And that all brings me to my final point, the final barrier, which is simplification. So unless you spend a significant amount of time right now trying to understand this stuff, you are not gonna understand the metaverse. You don't understand how cryptocurrencies and NFTs are the metaverse's infrastructure in a lot of ways without taking the time to research it. And then when you do understand that basic fact, there is so much technical jargon just being thrown around that it's incredibly easy to get lost and overwhelmed. It's sad to say, but right now it takes a lot of determination to understand how the metaverse works and what it is. A lot. So for example, let's just go back to Boson Protocol real quick. So everything that I told you, those basic like 4 sentences, took me hours and hours to understand. And I had to talk directly to them on their Discord. Their website is beautiful, but ultimately it is awful at informing its readers. I mean, sure, the headline is great, but then you think, interesting, so what does it offer then? And then it says, you can build commerce applications that everyone can trust and use. Okay, interesting. How does it do that? Things, money, and data. What is this? I want to know how it works. Blah, blah, blah. This is decentralized commerce. This what? What is this? What is it and how does it work? Beachheads, breakouts? What is this? How can I use this for my business? And here's the most important thing about this. This isn't just Boson Protocol. A lot of Web3 and Metaverse businesses have impossible to understand sites like this. So unless we can find a way to make Metaverse simple to understand and use, it will never take hold. The same principles apply here as anywhere else on the internet. There are thousands of things pulling at our attention. And if this isn't something incredibly easy to get into, it just won't be the thing that ultimately wins the attention wars. Look, I believe in the Metaverse. I think there is so much potential to add a new layer to business and life, and I'm so excited to see where it goes. But unless we can get over these humps, it's just gonna be another thing on the pile of hopeful revolutions that didn't get past muster. So let me know where you think this thing is going. I would love to know. I know I kind of gave you a doomsday scenario, but I do think that there's hope there. Otherwise, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, and I will catch you in the next one.